Yo, what is going on, you guys? It's your boy King Sanders here, and we are back with another day of sports betting. But this video is going to be a little bit different. This video is going to be strictly informational. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be walking through a typical day on how I do my research and what I look at, how I get my advantages, where I see any sort of an edge, stuff like that. And that's kind of how I judge on what picks I'm going to be doing. And so it's basically just going to be step by step of what I do every single day to be able to bring you guys the best picks that I can find. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. I did just want to go ahead and say at the time of recording this video, we're less than 400 subscribers away. If you guys could, 400 subscribers away from 4,000, excuse me. So if you guys could, smash that like and subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you guys know whenever I post. Like I said, we're on the road to 4,000. Once we do hit that, we will be doing a $4,000 parlay giveaway. So, okay, now this video will be in no way, shape, or form monetized. Obviously, it's going to have ads left and right, up and down on pretty much every single one of these pages. So this is strictly for me to give you guys the best information that is available to you. So this is not really too much for my benefit. This is more for you guys. So let's go ahead and hop into it. So basically what I do, the first step is essentially going to be to basically just use the eye test. Now what that means is I'll start with a player prop first, okay? So we'll start with a player prop here. So we'll go ahead and we'll say for the Hawks and Magic game. By now, at the time that I'm recording this, it's about 2:30 Central Time, p.m. So there's tons of lines up. But most of the time, whenever you're starting to do your research, you'll just have the points line, rebounds line, assist line, PRA line, stuff like that. So you'll go through here and you'll look. These are all the ones that you can bet on right now. So let's say, for example, Cole Anthony. I'm thinking, against a pretty decent Hawks team, I would probably lean towards the under, but this is where the next step kind of comes into play. So then what we will go ahead and do is once we find a prop that we do want to look at and see if it's a good spot to target it or if it's a good spot to fade it, we use Statmuse. If you guys haven't heard of Statmuse, you guys definitely need to check them out. You can get every single stat for like game logs, for just traditional stats when it comes to like records, all that good stuff you can find here on Statmuse. It's fantastic, and it's all free. I know that they do have like some paid features, but truthfully, I've never used any of the paid features, and it works just as well. So right here, we'll go ahead and type in Cole Anthony game log, and let's take a look at it. So Cole Anthony in his recent games, last game against Denver, he saw about 26 minutes, 9 points, 3 rebounds, and only 1 assist. Not the greatest game for him. Then he had 17 against Phoenix, another solid team there. Utah, he dropped 18. And so it looks like he's beaten up on a lot of the more like not as great defenses for the most part. So he hasn't hit it in 2 straight. He finished right on the hook in the one before that. He hasn't hit in 3 of his last 5. If you take a look from Boston here, he finished with 9. So he's went under this line 3 of his last 5 games. So it's kind of a sketchy one, but let's go ahead and double check it one more time. We'll take it even a step further. So next we would use Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros is going to be, this is one of my favorite tools for player props. Fantasy Pros, basically what it is it gives you what, like against these specific teams, where their advantages lie. So, for example, Cole Anthony is obviously a point guard, so we would filter it onto the point guard position here, and we're looking at his points total for right now at least. So we would click here, and these teams would allow the most points per game to opposing point guards. So Los Angeles Lakers, they give up the most points per game to opposing point guards in the entire NBA. And then it goes the Rockets, the Nets, the Clippers, Suns, etc. Now the Hawks, they're kind of middle of the road team, so you don't really love to see that. They're kind of like in that. I'm not going to count it out, but I think they're like probably like 12th or 13th most points per game. So it's not a great matchup there, but there's still more to look at. Next, we have our NBA injury report. This is by Rotowire. I recently found them probably like a month before I started doing, or probably like 2 or 3 weeks after I started doing the betting videos, and it's been fantastic. So we will go here to the Eastern Conference. We'll take a look at the injuries. And so Markelle Fultz, RJ Hampton are still out, and then John Isaac and Mo Wagner. But it's not really anything too significant to the guard position other than, I guess, RJ Hampton. But still, you're going to see pretty much the same amount of production from him. So I don't. So still, it kind of gets me on on the edge. So another thing that we can look at is Cole Anthony game log versus Atlanta. Now this is going to show all of his games versus Atlanta, which he has went under in 3 of the 4 games. The only game he didn't was here earlier this year. So let's take a look at it. Looks like they still had everyone for the most part. Yeah, it looks like he must have just had a really good game. I mean, Franz Wagner, he only shot the ball 14 times. I know he's been shooting it a lot more recently. Gary Harris got about 8 shots up. Wendell didn't shoot the ball like at all, only getting 8 shots, even though he was 3 for 3 from 3. So I think this is more of a fluke game. So once again, a lot of the stats are pointing towards the under for Cole Anthony tonight. But one last thing that we can look at just to try to double check and make sure that that's a decent play is TeamRankings. TeamRankings is another fantastic tool that I use every single day. This is going to be for team stats. So this is going to be for like defensive ratings. This is going to be for like who gives up the most points per game in the entire NBA, who gives up the like most assists every single day, stuff like that. So this is where you would go. If you just typed in TeamRankings, it would just take you to the main page here. So you would just click on NBA, and then you would get to this screen. From this screen, what I would be looking for right here in this specific situation would be defenses. So I would be looking to see if Atlanta gives up a lot of points, see how good their defense has been recently. So the first thing that we would look at, stats, team stats, and then right here we'd go to the scoring defense. Now, like I said, there's so much going on here, but I only focus on a couple of them. So first thing, opponent points per game. So this is going to be how many points does each individual team give up in the entire NBA. Now, if you look at it, Atlanta, they do actually give up a decent amount of points there. They give up about the ninth most, points per game in the entire NBA. So it's not great. And in their last 3, they're right around the same spot. So their defense hasn't been great recently. Another thing you can look at, if you go back to the team stats, you go to the scoring defense, you can look at defensive efficiency. This is another great defensive stat here, but they're actually, so they're actually the second worst in defensive efficiency. So it's kind of a sketchy bet if you're looking at strictly that Cole Anthony one. I wouldn't be playing it myself, but it's just something to look at. The other key important stat, I know it seems like I'm rambling, but I seriously do this for every single pick, every single day, to try to find the best value plays for you guys. So the other one that you're going to want to look at is other and possessions per game. This is where I get my pace stats. And if you look at it, Atlanta is actually the ninth slowest pace in the entire NBA. So that means that they play at a super slow pace, so there may not be nearly as many shots put up. There may not be, so it's just going to be a very slow game. And Orlando, they're a little faster, and I guess they've been solid, but still, like Atlanta is going to be taking possessions away from them since they play at a much slower pace. So that's kind of how I do things every single day when it comes to the player props. Another thing you can look at is spread picks. Once again, I still do kind of the eye test for most of them to get that initial pick, but then from there is whenever I truly dive into things. So we will go, I'm trying to think of a good one that I could do. I was looking at the Thunder and the Spurs. Okay, so we'll try this one real quick. So the first thing that I see is that the Thunder are 7.5-point dogs at home, and they've really, they've done a solid job covering the games recently. So let's dive into it. So first thing I would do, I would pull up the Thunder game log just to see. I know they haven't been winning games, but they have been keeping it pretty close. They did lose they did beat the New York Knicks, but Josh Giddey went ridiculous. Anyway, so what I would do for most spread picks, I just strictly use TeamRankings because they have a fantastic tool here. If you go over to the team section and you scroll down to whatever team you're looking at, so in this case, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you go to their against the spread results, this is going to tell you the games that they have covered and the games that they haven't. So, for example, if you look down here, you can see that these last 3 games, this is the initial spread, so 13.5, 9.5, and 10, and they have lost by 13, so barely covered, lost by 5, so they covered, and won by 4. So they've covered in 3 straight games, and I know they went on another 3-game streak where they didn't cover, but they covered in 3 before that. So they've covered in 6 of their last 9 games, so 66%. That's not too bad odds there. So we'll take a look at the Spurs real quick. You can go here as well, results and trends, ATS results. This is going to tell you all their recent games as well, but they've also been pretty solid. They have covered against New Orleans. They covered against Atlanta. They did not cover against Cleveland. They beat Houston by 25, beat Miami, beat Golden State, stuff like that. So, it's kind of a 50-50 shot there, but this is where you can really find some incredible edges. So if you go to the results and trends and you go to against the spread trends, this is where things are going to be huge because it is at OKC. I just wanted to double check that, sorry. So they are going to be a road team. So the Spurs on the road are 16-13 against the spread, so covering 55% of the time. As an away favorite, though, they're just 2-3 against the spread, so they haven't really been great. Here's another stat: is after a win, they are 10-12. I'll have to double check. San Antonio lost last game because I think they played Chicago, but let me double check it real quick. So we'll go to Spurs game log and we'll take a look at it. Yeah, so they lost to my Chicago Bulls last game. So we can also look here and see after a loss, they're 19-16 against the spread. So these are just a couple little edges here. So we would go back to the Thunder. We would see if there's any extra, edges for this as well. And the Thunder have been great at covering this year. They've been absolutely fantastic. So they did just win against, I can't remember who it was, I'm sorry. They won against the Knicks. So after a win, they're 11-5-1 against the spread. And as a home team this year, they are just 15-9-3, but still solid. But as a home favorite or as a favorite in general, they are just 1-1. So you can't really go too much off that. But you can also use Statmuse to look at the recent matchups between these teams. So we can look at it, and the Thunder, they did lose against the Spurs last time out by 22, but the games before that, they've actually won 3 straight. So you can take a look at that, and you can say, they're 3-1 in their last 4 games versus the San Antonio Spurs. You can see a little bit of an edge there. So there's just a couple things that you can kind of look at. Once again, you can look here at the injuries. So like OKC, obviously Lou Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Ty Jerome, Mike Muscala, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, and Kenrich Williams all out for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's obviously not ideal. And then for the Spurs, they just have Trey Jones out. But you can kind of look at these things and you can kind of get a feel of, where you feel the most confident and stuff like that. So, for example, I know a team that's covered a lot is the Memphis Grizzlies. So we can look at the Grizzlies real quick. We can look at their ATS results. And look, they have covered in 6 straight games and 9 of their last 10. So they've been really solid. So you can use common trends like that. But So that's kind of my process for most of the time. There are just a couple other tools that I do use, but this is it for the most part. This is truly it. So I always start out by getting a sports book up. I always look through the sports book, see if there's any plays I like, whether it be a spread pick, over under, player prop, whatever the case might be. I always use the eye test. I then check the game log through Statmuse. Then from there, I use, if it's a player prop, I use the defense versus position. And then from there, I go to the team rankings and I see if there's any sort of an edge. Now, you can use team rankings for the over-unders as well. If you feel like an over-under is really low, you can look at the Memphis Grizzlies and you can say, oh, so they have went over in 7 straight games. So you can definitely take a look at it. I know Portland, I had a comment about this. I think they only went over in like 2 of their last 6 or something. But regardless, it looks like it's a good spot. Both of these two teams do play at a fast pace. You can get that from odds and trends. Or wait, no, sorry, stats, team stats. And then you can go to other and possessions per game. You can see that Memphis is a top 5 team in pace. And Portland, it looks like they're 19th, but so it's a little bit slower, but still Memphis plays at such a high pace that they're going to kind of make up for it. So those are just the tools that I do use every single day. If you guys do have any questions about it whatsoever, feel free to comment down below. I did just want to let you guys know that that's kind of how I do things every single day. I just go from one site to another, trying to find the lines for everything. I try to find the biggest edges. So if that did help you guys out at all, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you guys know whenever I post. We are on the road to 4,000. Like I said, we're less than 400 subscribers away. So hopefully we can hit that here pretty soon. But yeah, that's it for now. This is King Sir signing out. Peace.